His poor
I think
son.
seriously,
What's the name of his kid?
David.
Yeah, David.
Yeah,
He's like, all
David.
right, David. Now you better get in there and clean all those guts up. I saved you. You owe me.
Time, monster. You don't belong in this world.
Welcome to the
This
Cable Club. Today, we're uploading data from us to you. I'm Steve.
I'm Dan.
and I'm Don.
And we're the Cable Club. And thanks for joining us, anybody that's listening, to listen to us talk about retro games. Um, so, Don, what game are you most nostalgic for?
You guys are still wearing the masks? For those of you who are listening visually, my co-hosts are wearing masks. I guess they're getting into the
Heck yeah.
spirit of the season.
Halloween's
Uh,
around the corner.
so, Dan is Jason Voorhees, I guess. I'm not sure that that's really like the Jason mask or not. It's hard to tell.
Well, it
Nah, I
matches
don't.
the game pretty good.
Heck
Oh,
yeah.
interesting. And then looks like Steve is some kind of metal devil looking thing.
Yeah, I play D&D
Very
on the
cool.
side.
And I'm dressed as an IRS agent. Very scary.
Super scary.
I guess
Scariest of all.
yeah, I guess it could be kind of scary if they're on your tail.
I'm dressed as the father of a 15-month-old. Very
Yeah.
scary.
They'll
Very
go after your
scary.
kids. Lock your house.
So,
Lock your wife up.
what game am I most nostalgic for? Yeah, so this is our question of the week. It's good. It's meant to get us started. This is our, first podcast airing. So, don't worry, we've had a few practice episodes. But as far as nostalgic games go, uh, I grew up in the Genesis era. Is that like Genesis sound chip type feel, and I think that no game I feel like represents that more than this one right here. This is a new acquisition this week. For those of you who don't know, I'm somewhat of a pseudo collector. I'm definitely not one of those people that is good enough to have a YouTube game room tour yet. But yeah, I picked this up this week, and it's a very,
Ooh.
very clean copy of the Sega Genesis Shining Force. It's in the box. It's got the manual. It's beautiful. For those of you who don't know, it is a tactical RPG. It was really, I think, the first time that I got into a game that had like a leveling system. Like I had played like Mario and Sonic and stuff before that, and I mean, I could play that game.
Everybody
Those,
has.
yeah, those
Oh yeah.
games for like an hour. But this was like the first time when I was like, oh, you can play a game for a very long time. And as strategy RPGs go, I probably, to someone who's a buff of that type of game, I probably wouldn't recommend it nowadays. It's very, very simplistic. But I think it really was kind of proof of concept back then. There was Fire Emblem before it, but it was a Japanese only release. I really think it may be one of the first tactical RPGs to have hit the States. And anyway, this is the game that I'm super nostalgic for. I actually used to play a PC version of it on like our old crappy like compact Presario family computer at home. And yeah, great. Love it. How
How
about you,
about you?
Dan?
Yeah.
So mine's actually kind of similar. It's a tactical simulation RPG. I don't know why I loved this as a kid, but for some reason, every time I'd go over to my grandfather's, like every couple of months, I just fell in love with the game. It's called Ogre Battle March of the Black Queen for the SNES. It came out in 1993, I believe. But basically it's like you buy troops and stuff, and then like it's kind of like a simulation. Like you don't actually control them actually fighting, but there's like different like units you can put in a team, and they each have like their own special moves. And you basically, you traverse like this, world map, and you conquer different parts of the country. And based on your like composition, like you could have like two knights, and it'll tell you like, oh, if they're in the front row, they can slash 3 times, but if they're in the back row, they can only slash like once. So like you kind of have to like play to their strengths.
Or just put them
And
in the back row, like give them better defense or something.
I think if units, if they were in the back row, they took half damage. I mean, I'm not positive on that, but I believe that's how it was. Obviously, like if you put like a wizard up in front, they would actually smack with their cane. But if you put them in the back, they would actually use like their magic attacks. So, I mean, for its time, I believe it, it was an interesting concept, but like,
So
yeah,
they let you put the wizards in front, so you know that you
you
weren't supposed to do that.
yeah, you could. I mean, if you really wanted to be like crazy and like put the like your fighters in the back and then your wizards in the front, that would
Challenge
Back,
be
run.
back when games
that.
didn't tell you exactly what to do, they made you learn through trial and error and, playing the game.
Yeah,
You were like 6 years old, and you're like, "Why is my wizard casting magic?"
but it's a game that like I was probably like what, like 8 years old. Like it's a game that you would never expect like like an 8-year-old kid to like really enjoy. But I don't know. Every time I went over my grandfather's house, I just could not wait to play that game. And
Is it like an auto battler?
yeah, it's like a simulation. So basically, like you'll have like your group of like each group can have like 5 units, and then obviously the opposing team can have like five, and then you just battle out head to head, and whoever had like the better outcome or the better like combination of units, usually you would win out. I
Didn't
don't know. I just
Square didn't Square make a game like that like way later? I'm thinking like the Wii era. Steve, you might know what I'm talking about, and it's
I
kind of like
think
a tactical like RPG, except you have like squads and they all like fight in a crowd, and I feel like the characters are somewhat Final Fantasy themed. There's a song in it called
I don't
Sword
remember.
Spark.
I don't.
Ugh,
oh, Last Remnant.
Yeah, Last
that
Remnant.
one, that one. Yeah, is that kind of
Yeah,
what it is?
it's kind of similar actually. Yeah, I actually didn't even put two and two together.
Dude, that
I
game's
believe
music is so good.
it's so good.
Yeah, I have memory for such garbage things.
But I believe like Enix, before they like merged, actually made that game Ogre Battle. So
Is it related to like Tactics Ogre on the GBA? I don't know if you remember that
They
game.
had
Is
one
it
on
like the
Super
same
no,
Nintendo.
franchise?
it's like same world, but like two different games. Like
This
a
Tactics
strategic
Ogres is
RPG.
a
Like
little bit more like Final Fantasy Tactics and Fire Emblem
yeah,
style.
Yeah, it's kind of like
right.
exactly like it. I think they actually run on the same engine, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's a little
Um,
different from that, but I don't know. For some reason, that game is just like it ticked all the check boxes for me as a kid, and I love the crap out of it. Um,
It's fair.
yeah.
Doesn't have to be
What
good,
about
just nostalgic.
yeah, right? What
it's
about
true.
you, Steve?
It's
What
not the
were
name
you
of the game.
nostalgic for?
So, some of my earliest memories of games are like Super Mario and Castlevania. But the one that I'm most nostalgic for was when I was 5 years old for Christmas. We went to my aunt's house, and so we had like two family Christmases. We woke up, and the presents were all the way across the living room, and it was like, oh my god, holy cow!
I
And
miss
so,
those days.
yeah, that's why we play retro games, man. Bring us back. And so, uh, finally, after all the presents were opened, finally, the big one. I open it up. It is a brand new Sega Genesis, 5 years old. My first console. My mom owned the
Wow.
Nintendo. That was hers. We played on it a little bit, but this was mine. And it came bundled with Sonic the Hedgehog. And I remember to this day, from 5 years old, my cousin, he showed me as soon as Sonic starts waving his finger, you can do up C, down C, left C, right C, A, and start at the same time and open up debug mode. I had never even played this game before. And now I'm in debug mode. I can pick level select. I can go and I can infinitely spawn rings. I can fly around the levels. I had so much fun as a kid, and it's just great memories. Everybody's played Sonic, but that
Oh
was
yeah.
like a special thing for me.
I don't even think I play debug mode now.
Oh, I
Yeah,
remember that as a kid. I know exactly what you're talking about, Steve.
yeah. And my mind was blown because I'd only played like Nintendo up to that point, and he had a Sega Genesis, and they had the Sega Channel. Have you guys ever heard of the Sega Channel?
I have
Yeah,
not. No.
way ahead of its time.
He had
What
that. Like, dude, the Sega was like mind blowing.
what a time to be alive.
What is the Sega Channel?
So think about
Streamed games.
Netflix. Yeah, think about like Netflix, except instead of watching streaming shows, you could stream video games
Yeah, in like the early 90s.
on
Wow.
dial up.
We're doing this now with like Nintendo online
Yeah.
services and like, PS Now. And Sega was doing it all the way back in the 90s.
And
It failed
Sega,
That's
so hard.
crazy.
dude, they had so many titles on the Sega Channel, and they would rotate, I think, monthly. But they also
Mhm.
had exclusives on the Sega Channel too that you could only play on Sega Channel.
Yeah, I still to this day don't really understand how Sega lost the console wars as bad as it did.
Dreamcast
Um,
flopped.
just because they had
Yeah.
so many good ideas, you know. Uh, but anyway, alas,
Poor Sonic.
I know.
poor Sonic indeed, done dirty. So that was the gaming news of the past. But we're gonna talk about some gaming news now. So every time we do this podcast, we're going to want to bring you a little bit of gaming news, what's going on right now. I will say 2 weeks ago, this would have been a much more interesting section. It's been a little bit of a slow cycle for the last couple weeks. Uh, you know, the big one for me is the Mario RPG remake that is set to release on November 17th of 2023. I'm a little bit of a fan of the original game. I think we're all kind of a fan of the original game. Has its flaws, so hopefully the new game polish it up a little bit and it'll be wonderful.
Are you
Wonderful.
buying it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not buying it till you let me know. I heard that
Yeah.
they did actually have some rearrangements on the music. Like they made new tracks for it. Or at least edited them some way, like enhanced them or something. So
Yeah.
that's kind of a big sell for me. Because the original soundtrack, as good as it is, gets really repetitive.
I do not think the original soundtrack is all that great. That's one
It's
part about the game I wish they had changed. It doesn't feel like Mario at all to me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing about it does.
I'll have to play it this time around. I actually only dabbled a little bit on the SNES version.
Oh, you want to borrow my cartridge?
It's
I might have to.
it's right there in the
And I
back.
can-
It's up on the wall over there.
I can do
You
a
know-
comparison, see what they've changed. I like doing that with some games where like a remake's coming out and you like play like the original just to see what they've changed.
Do it in reverse order if you're a real masochist.
Yeah. I actually did that for the what was it? Final Fantasy VII remake. I at least played through the beginning section of the game when you're in Midgar.
The graphics are really good, but I don't know. I like traditional JRPGs more than action RPGs personally.
Oh, I'm there with you, but
I think I'm more of an ARPG guy, to be honest.
Oh, that's fine. Nobody's
Yeah.
making fun of you except you didn't bring a mask. So
It's true.
unprepared.
yeah.
Son,
I mean, action
I am
RPGs are
disappointed.
good. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like a time and a place for it, I believe. I feel like, with the Final Fantasy, like say if they remade it,
dude,
like
I miss old
same
Final
graphics
Fantasy.
and made it turn-based, I can't not see it how it wouldn't have done good. I still think it would have done amazing.
I miss old Final Fantasy more than I like every year I miss it more and more.
Yeah. Well, now they're like turning it into what? Like Bravely Default and like Octopath Traveler for like the turn-based, and they
Bravely Default's like super old, right? It came
No,
out for the DS, I think.
Yeah, but
3DS.
they actually came out with what, Bravely Default 2, I think.
Which
Yeah.
I think was for the 3DS, but still some
No,
time ago.
so it's kind of confusing. I think Bravely Second, like, is the one you're thinking of,
Oh,
is came out on the 3DS. Bravely Default 2 is like a whole new storyline, and I think that came out for the Switch like maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I haven't played Octopath Traveler. I hear some really mixed things about it. Like anywhere I look, Octopath Traveler's reviews are great, and then anytime I hear anyone talking about it, it's always, oh, it could have been so much better.
Right,
I
right.
didn't play
I'm
it.
curious what went wrong there. It's got a banging soundtrack. On occasion one pops up on my radio, but yeah,
So, like me
Spotify
personally,
radio.
I don't like to buy games on the eShop. I much prefer to have physical copies. And it was really hard to find the game when it came
I
out
agree.
in
I agree.
physical copies without like buying it online. I like going to the store and picking it out, driving home and going like, I'm so excited to play this. But I couldn't find it when it came out, and I kind of just lost interest after a few months and just
I
forgot that
forgot
it
about it too.
existed.
Yeah, right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's what happened to me in that game.
Well, speaking of the Switch, I have one more little bit of news for Nintendo, if you care. Big news here, right?
Mhm.
Mario Party 3 is coming to Switch.
Oh wow.
If
I
you're
don't know if I
Yes.
played the third one.
Hats.
I've only played like 1 and 2, I think, and I
Hats.
like stopped.
I hear it's
All the
I hear
hats.
I hear it's the best of the 64, the 64 ones,
I
but
have such a soft spot for the first one.
Yeah,
You
remember
know,
the Cloud
yeah,
City
that soft
level?
spot is in the middle of your hand.
you would compare blisters that in school, like who had the biggest blister
They actually brought that game back on the
on the Switch. Yeah.
Switch version, and it actually has a warning in the instructions not to do that.
Yeah, but the Switch remotes are so much like more comfortable.
You
Oh,
would
and
break
they're
that
better.
thing though.
The
If
64.
you were sitting there, like, yeah, you'd break that
Yeah,
Joy-Con
it
for
didn't,
sure.
it didn't stand a chance. And
Dude,
like think I remember
64,
with the
64 could
64
take a beating.
controller.
Yeah,
Wasn't it held with like an elastic? I remember like it
Yeah.
wasn't like
Yeah.
a ball joint. It was like
Yeah.
an elastic on the bottom.
dude,
That thing wouldn't survive Mario
they,
Party.
they made that thing to take a beating, the N64 controller, and I know because I definitely beat on mine as a kid, like playing like Smash Bros and stuff, dude.
Yeah, but at the same time though, that a lot of the time it's like when you like push forward on like your N64 controller, at least a lot of the ones that I had, like say if you're playing like Mario 64 and it's like you wouldn't even do a full run because it's like it was so worn out.
Yeah,
He's
it
just
definitely
walking.
get worn out.
Yeah.
You just tilt the controller and the joystick kind of like limply lolls either
They just
either
don't make
direction.
controllers like they used to, you know?
Uh,
Have you
Thank God
tried
for that.
playing with an old like Sega Genesis controller? A lot of those the buttons are worn, like they don't work as good as they used to.
Yeah, that's kind of one part of history that seems to have flipped, right? Because back in the day, you used to give the third-party controller to your friend that you didn't like,
Mad
you know.
Cats.
But now,
Mad
now
Cats.
You get the
like,
GameCube controller, the Mad Catz Mini.
I mean, I think 8-bit dough like pretty much wears the pants as far as like every third-party controller out there goes, and they pretty much blow out of the water even like the first-party controllers nowadays, just completely crushing it. Like, and I think Joy-Cons are pretty universally recognized as terrible
They are.
as far as
They-
Nintendo goes.
It's a shame. I've bought like 4 sets of Joy-Cons and they're $70 a set because
Yeah,
the right Joy-Con is always drifting or always unsyncing, like it's just awful.
yeah, that's another thing. Is like why is controller so goddamn expensive nowadays?
Hardware.
It's crazy. Like $70, $80. Like I feel like when every new system comes out, the controller goes up in price too.
You know, you can still get these really great 8-bit dough controllers for 60. You know, I think it's very reasonable, and they hook up to everything. Like mine does my laptop, my Switch, whatever. You know, it's great.
Yeah.
Kind of in that same vein, another piece of news for you guys, a little bit more off the beaten path outside the big three, which I think would be Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony. Have you guys heard of a company called Analog?
No.
I don't think so.
All right, so we're all kind of, we definitely have more than our feet wet in the emulator world, all of us, right? So
Oh, yeah.
Analog is not creating emulating systems. They are recreating old hardware in condensed, updated format. So what that means is like the one that really kind of put them on the map was the Analog Pocket. But if you go to the Analog website and browse their consoles, you can find like Sega Genesis, SNES, NES, old consoles, or rather, I should say consoles that play old cartridges, but were made in like the last 7 years. And like they're working on now, they just announced it four days ago, but they're basically putting the entire N64 engine in like a chip that's like this big, and they're attaching it to a console, and you'll just plug your cartridges and play, and it like has like everything that the N64 would have in it to
Really?
play these cartridges, except it outputs 4K, holds a stable 60 FPS, right? Like it's just a beautiful system. I will say when these things launch, they're not that expensive. But what ends up happening is people buy them and then they like hook them online. Like you
Yeah,
can't
they're
get
gonna go on
get
sale, and
an
somebody's gonna
analog
buy
pocket.
like 100 of them.
Yeah, you can't get an analog pocket for less than like 600 right now. One, or I should say, a new one. You can find them, but they're just difficult. But the analog pocket plays Game Boy games, Game Boy Color games, Game Boy Advance games, and it plays your actual cartridges, not a emulated file. Although I hear you can jailbreak them and you can put third-party software and whatever on there, but it kind of the whole point of this system is that it eliminates a lot of the problem that you might have with emulators, right? Like we've all probably done enough emulating. One I like to go back to is Paper Mario, and I can get it like near perfect, but there's always like one or two things throughout the game that's like a minor visual bug or something like that, right? It doesn't generally affect my gameplay, but it is annoying and it just takes you out of the game and lets you know. So that's what these systems fight, right? So still giving these old cartridges a home, but on an updated base, if you will. So kind of neat.
It's pretty cool.
Recommend checking it out.
I'm gonna check that out. Sounds very awesome.
Yeah, I'm probably fixing to buy one of those. The really remarkable thing about this is that there are other companies out there like Hyperkin that makes the Retrons that are like flirting with the idea of putting out an N64 model, and now Retrons are emulation-based systems. They just download they download the ROMs from the carts you put in them to play them. It doesn't have visual bugs or anything like that, but I don't think it's going to run quite the same as a system like this. So I'm definitely looking for a premium replacement for my N64. So I think that'd be probably something I'm interested in. I would love to get the Sega Genesis one, but again, same thing. You go look online, you can't find these things for less than $500 now.
Well,
So-
I mean, Sega Genesis isn't that expensive.
No, it's not. And I also have a Retron, so I'm not super worried about it.
Right.
But-
Um,
But I just like the Genesis. I'm just a big Genesis fan.
the only other gaming news that I can think of is Mario Wonder just released, and I bought that, and I'm almost done 100%ing it in like the week that I got it. So I've been having a lot of fun.
How would you rate that game as a Mario game? As far as like all the 2D ones? Is it up there, you think?
So like my favorite side-scrolling Mario games, probably either World or 3. And if that was a 10 for a metric, those two games were 10. This one's probably like a 7 or 8. It's good.
Not bad. Not bad.
I like the first New Soup game a lot. I think it's very underrated.
On the Wii?
On the DS, actually.
On the DS?
Yeah, DS New Soup's
I
pretty
thought
good.
that was like New Super Mario Brothers DS. So
No, actually, it's just called New Super Mario Brothers. It's where that series started.
I didn't
Was
play that one. I know you had it
Yeah.
when we were growing up, but I didn't play it.
Yeah, no, it's pretty good. I have a copy of it now, actually. Played it somewhat recently, 100%ed it. It's fun.
I'll have to play it.
All right,
Very nice.
so Dan, you want to tell us why we are all here today?
Alrighty. Today, we're reviewing a game that was picked by our previous episode's arena winner. We're new to this, and still, our podcast is still taking shape, so we're trying a few different formats. On this episode, we're going to keep things casual and just geek out. Or crap on the title that was handpicked for the show. Today's game is Splatterhouse 3 for the Sega Genesis.
All right, so I won the first
Barely.
arena ever
It was close.
by a landslide.
Oh yeah.
It was the biggest crowd you've ever seen at my inauguration.
To be fair, your game was better, and it was closer than it should have been.
Both games are good.
Well,
Let's
you
be
know,
honest.
we can't account for taste. So, Splatterhouse 3. Just to take you into a quick overview, and then we're gonna kind of get into, pretty loose, just geeking out session about it. It was Splatterhouse 3 was published in 1993 for the Sega Genesis, and 1 year after its prequel, Splatterhouse 2, of course, and it was published by Namco, of all companies, the same people that brought you Pac-Man, brought you this little nightmare, and this was the end of the series until 2010 when it suddenly revived for a PlayStation 3 adaptation. The team behind this original trilogy was a company called Bottle Rocket. They wouldn't go on to do much more, according to the wiki. And this title actually was mentioned alongside Mortal Kombat that came out in 1996 regarding violence in video games. But, as I think everybody is fully aware, it did not rise to the same level of infamy that Mortal Kombat did for some reason.
Well, I know why. Because Mortal Kombat was in arcades, it's much more accessible to people.
Splatterhouse 1 was in arcades too, but there's no
Yeah.
real accounting for what ends up as popular and what doesn't, I guess.
Well, I think it happened before the second game even, because like either this one or the third one, or I'm sorry, this one or the second one actually got a mature rating, and the reason that the ESRB came to be was because of like Mortal Kombat and stuff. So
Yeah.
it predates I think the second game. So, you know, Splatterhouse and Mortal Kombat were a big reason for that, and amongst some other things too.
Yeah. Also, Mortal Kombat was kind of over the top with like some of the fatalities in the game too.
Ripping spines out or arms off and beating people with it, and
Oh,
like
that too. And it's like
Dude.
it's done to human beings too. Like, with Splatterhouse, all the things you're beating on, it's just like monsters and stuff.
Yeah,
So
but there's bodies in the background. Like the first boss you fight is like this like naked, obviously formerly humanoid creature that like
yeah,
is
that is true.
munching. He's like munching on body parts. There's just
Yeah.
very human body parts in the background, and like the damage that these monsters take, like you like punch their jaw off, and then their like tongue is like hanging out. Like
Yeah. I know.
Mortal
Like,
Kombat was violent, but I feel like this is a different level of like viscera going on.
well, I also don't think this was nearly as popular as Mortal Kombat.
that is true. Like, to be honest with you, I didn't even know what Splatterhouse was until you mentioned it, Don. So
Yeah,
maybe
me
that's
either.
why.
I had never heard of it. I think as a kid, there's this place called Mike's Videos in Manchester, New Hampshire, where I grew up, and they had a big warehouse. It was in like the mill buildings, and Mike's Video, he had like huge, like he had like every game you could think of, and I think I remember seeing Splatterhouse 3's box art as a kid, but I never rented it.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a side-scrolling beat 'em up that first couple of installments. So it's I guess it's a different type of game than Mortal Kombat, right? Because like Mortal Kombat you would have played with your friends, and I guess you would have ripped your friend's spine out by extension, as opposed to fighting like NPCs.
Finish him.
basically. So.
Fatality.
But like, I don't know, some of the imagery in this game, there's like the one level where there's the guy behind the cage, and like his lower body is gone, and like all his intestines are hanging out, and he's like alive, and he's like banging on the cage to like, let me out, let me out. Like, you're like, dude, how did this? To me, I I think it's more violent than Mortal Kombat.
I mean, if you dissect
Like,
it like that,
I think
yeah,
it's
I
more.
suppose, yeah.
I think it's more gory, but I wouldn't say it's more violent than Mortal Kombat. Like ripping somebody's arm off and beating him with it, or like freezing him and uppercutting him and him blowing into a million pieces of ice blood, or like I mean, there were some
hanging
pretty
from the ceiling with hooks. I mean, there's lots of stuff going on.
yes,
Or
here.
but
punching somebody in an acid pool and they come up and then it's like they're just a skeleton after.
but or like What is
I
a
guess Mortal
scorpion?
Kombat was like made after that like motion capture, so people were like supposed to look real, and it looked like
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was only relating to the word you used. Violence. Hanging from meat hooks isn't necessarily violence. We do that to
excuse me.
no violence is physical like physical actions. These things are already hanging. Like violence to me is like the act of. But
Yeah,
if
but somebody hung him there.
sure, but you hang beef by hooks too. You don't call that violence, right?
Some people do, yes. Some people are
Yeah.
vegetarians, if you can believe it.
That doesn't count as violence. Violence is ripping somebody's eyes out or like pulling the spine out of their body. That's violence.
Making meat, yeah. Except in this game, they make meat out of people.
Li- no, these aren't people. They're monsters.
I think they were people.
Where did all
How?
these monsters come
Yeah,
from,
like where?
anyways?
What? Do you, no, they're from hell or whatever in this. Isn't there like a
From
I
what? From the
don't
evil one?
I
yeah
don't think
from the
they ever
evil
really
one?
explain it. I think it's kind of like a Evil Dead kind of thing. I think
How
they're all like
many
possessed
humans
people.
do you think are in Rick's house when this happened? Was he
I don't
having a party?
it's not Rick's house. It's the mansion.
No, it's
Oh,
his house.
I thought it was Rick's mansion.
It's his house.
Unless that was a mistranslation.
I don't think so. Is
No,
it?
it's his house. Yeah.
Oh, all
Yeah.
right. I mean, the guy's balling. You can't afford those houses at today's prices. You serious?
Well,
This was the
another thing
'90s, a
too,
different time.
Dude,
I
he's
think
like
I think most of the blood in Splatterhouse too is like green, because like I think they
A
didn't get
lot of
the
it.
yeah, they didn't get the green light to do like the red blood.
all right,
Like
so I'm kind of two minds about that, right? Like, yeah, it is green, but there's an awful lot of red already in this game. So I actually kind of think it enhances it. But if you don't like it, my understanding is there's a blood code to make it turn red.
oh, is there?
Yeah, I think. I don't know. Might have
It'd
to
be
fact check me there,
it'd be more
but
realistic. I mean, yeah,
pretty sure.
there's like you said, there's a lot of areas in the game where it's like there's a lot of red. So maybe visually it's just it's better having the green blood.
I, I didn't really pay attention to that detail.
What the green blood?
Yeah, like I don't know. I was just fighting monsters.
Apparently this game scared a lot of kids back in the day too.
It would have scared the shit out of me as a
Yeah.
kid. I definitely would not have played this as a 4-year-old now.
Yeah. No, I definitely could see that because I would watch some videos on this too, and I would see comments, and a lot of people who played it back as a kid, they were all like, "Oh, this game scared the crap out of me when I was a kid," which I could see. Back in the day, like it just seemed more realistic. Games in general, because this is all you knew back then.
Never gonna look better than this, guys.
It
Look at
looks
how
so
real
real.
It is. It's like, when PlayStation came out and PS2 came out, it's like, oh, these graphics are so good. I don't know how they could get any better than this. But it's the same story every time a new console comes out.
Like
Yeah, it's true.
Final Fantasy VIII, like the first FMVs that you get right when you start a new game, you're just like,
You're like,
Because I don't think any of us were part of the PC gamer master race because
no. When FF8 came out, my PC was like, it
I
was
mean
not good.
I don't think
when
I had a
I
PC then.
when I saw my first Diablo 2 cutscene, I was like, oh my. Can they get better than this?
It's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
real.
they can. Crazy. Um, yeah, so I think the green blood in Splatterhouse kind of adds to it. There's that one fight where you're fighting like the giant. I don't really know what to call him. The giant dick monster.
The boar
You guys,
worm.
you guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah, like that room is like all red. Like if he had red blood, you just wouldn't notice. Like
Yeah.
so, I
That,
feel like it kind of helps it stand out
well,
visually.
that too, and the boar worm is red himself. So yeah, it does stand out.
Big red blood-filled
As And
penis.
I don't know about you guys, but like as far as bosses fights goes in this game, I thought they were annoying as hell. Like so you're on a timer for most of the game, and and it's like the bosses know that you're on a timer and they're always trying to run away from you. They'll jump like halfway across the screen after you knock them down, and then they'll do like this little circle motion too. To like you're like sitting there trying to chase them down, and it's like they know it's like they're like looking at the clock that Rick's on, like, all right, I gotta run around this much longer.
Yeah, so this game is a beat 'em up. It's kind of like Streets of Rage or Golden Axe, or I'm trying to think of other beat 'em up examples.
Teenage
Final
Mutant
Fight.
Ninja
But
Turtles.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there's like multiple planes you can run around on. So yeah, Dan's not joking. They're like literal circles.
What was it?
They can just run around.
The 6 or 8 player X-Men
Which
on
one
the
was that
big
one?
cabinet, the double cabinet.
Yeah.
8 player X-Men in the arcade.
Yes. Yep. That is another example. Yep.
Oh, The Simpsons, dude, great beat 'em up.
This game has such a weird like structure to it because it is a beat 'em up, right? Which you would normally associate with going left to right, in a stage, and you fight a boss, right? There's maybe different kinds of enemies, maybe some weapons you pick up, and there is that kind of stuff. But then like I don't know why so they put you on the clock, like Dan said, which is nothing new in a beat 'em up. Most beat 'em ups have clocks, and something will happen to you if the clock runs out. I don't really know because it doesn't happen to me because I'm too good at beat 'em ups. But
One would say
but-
you beat 'em up.
but this one, like they have a weird like map, right? Like if you hit start after you clear a room, you can see a map of the whole mansion. But there's only one way to go the correct way. So, and again, you're on a timer.
The
You have
game
like
at
5 minutes.
the game actually tells you like right in the beginning too. It's like
Yeah, like
it tells you
don't
wander
explode.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says if you wonder. aim-
Yeah, I think that's
Mostly.
a translation issue that I picked on the
If you-
first time.
Yeah, if you Mario wonder aimlessly.
You're gonna fail.
Right. So they give you exploration, but then they like immediately tell you don't do that. And then they give you a timer, and if you've played beat 'em ups, you'll die when the timer runs out. So you don't want to die, so you're like, "Oh, I'm just going to find the quickest route out," and that's what you do. Yeah, I don't know if you guys felt like the structure is just weird or makes no sense, but
Yeah, so I didn't even know what the timer was when I very first started, and I was like looking at it as like it was like going down, like the last 10 seconds. I was like, oh, am I gonna die?
My timer.
And then it went down to 0, and then like I could still move around and like fight and be on my merry way. So I was like, all right, well, I'm not sure what that's about. And then I quickly find out that like I'm losing family members because I'm not being fast enough.
You don't love your family enough. The only thing that would have been more stressful is that the 1 minute mark it went da 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 da, and then the music got faster.
Yeah.
that's some real horror right there.
Yeah.
Sonic 2.
But
You just
Water
drown your
level.
hedgehog pet.
some of these cutscenes though can be pretty gnarly. Like as a kid too. Like his wife Jennifer is getting like eaten by like this like boar worm that's inside of her, and like as
Cheater.
every time you like progress in a couple rooms, you get like a nice little update what the the boar worm's up to in her body.
And then if you beat the boar worm fast enough, it's like, oh, the boar worm inside Jennifer stopped eating her. It's like, oh yeah, I'm sure she'll be fine. She's only got like one lung, no kidneys, half a spleen, whatever the boar worm didn't get through. I'm sure she's fine.
Rick shows up and goes, "That's my wife."
Yeah, it's just no internal bleed.
I just picture like this boar worm inside her body, and he's at like a like a restaurant or whatever.
Dude, they
all
have
you
teeth.
can eat restaurant, and he's like sitting there with a plate like, oh yeah, kidney there, what do you liver? Yeah, I'll take that too. Yeah, what's the else you get over here?
The loins. They don't tell you how the boar worm gets in there.
She's
No.
just infested. Have you seen the place? It's filthy.
Yeah,
Yep.
it is. I don't know if that's as a result of the monsters or if it's just, the
Yeah.
place is too big to keep clean, frankly. This is before the era of Roombas. You would have had a real hard time vacuuming this whole place.
I feel sorry for whoever's got to clean up after the mayhem that Rick caused.
His poor
I think-
son.
Seriously.
What's the name of his kid?
David.
Yeah, David.
Yeah,
He's like,
David.
all right, David. Now you better get in there and clean all those guts up. I saved you. You owe me.
Scrub that eye off the wall, please.
All right, we're going to the
Yeah,
boar
so
room, boar worm room next.
oh gee.
Yeah, especially the boreroom's room. Like it's like covered in like whatever that is,
Oh, the first
intestines.
boss's room with all the bodies is no picnic either. But yeah, the boar worm has like hearts beating in the background and stuff. Like, what even is that? How do you clean it up? Need a flamethrower.
David's room's almost impeccable, except for the mayhem you cause when you get there.
That would
It's
just
just
be teddy bear fluff everywhere, I guess.
well, no, the monster has a bunch of arms or whatever.
Yeah, he has like weird arms. That would have been the kind of thing that freaked me out as a kid. Like this
Which
like this normal looking teddy bear that sucks the kid's soul out, and then you have to chase it around the room, and then when you
So
beat it up
annoying.
enough, it like grows these giant alien arms, with like these 9-inch
right.
nails, I guess.
I
Yeah,
actually
just like
laughed at that boss fight because like there's a mechanic in the game where like if you walk up close enough to an enemy, you'll like grab it and you'll start headbutting it and then you can throw it across the room. For some reason, like picturing Rick grabbing like this like adult sized teddy bear and just like headbutting the crap out of this like teddy bear and then throwing it. I did it all on accident, but I thought it was hilarious.
yeah. So Rick is like a Jason Voorhees looking guy. If you've never played this game before, he's like big. His muscles are like ripped out of the sleeves of his shirt. The whole story behind this game is that there's this mask of like this old god that Rick puts on to fight these demons, and it's not so clear that the mask is good either, but the mask definitely likes violence and lots of it, and likes Rick because Rick brings him the violence. For some reason, Rick is a magnet for this. So like the whole game, the game kind of plays into it a little bit, where like in this game you can get the like blue orbs, and then you can like I guess they're like dark orbs or whatever they are, right? And then he like gets more powerful when you use his power. He like hulks up and like
Looks
the
like the
mask.
Predator almost.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
mask like takes over his face, basically, so you get kind of like that creature-esque element to it. So yeah,
Well,
there is
don't
like
forget
something of a story.
that when you transform, your shirt rips, but when you transform back, it regrows. That's how
Yeah, the
magical.
shirt comes back,
That's how
magical shirt.
magical that mask is.
The PlayStation 3 version definitely talks obviously talks a lot more about it, and where it came from and kind of what it is and what it wants.
I bet you the
So
instruction manual does a little bit more too, but I didn't read it.
I actually think that this game probably like because there was that era of like hack and slash type horror action games like Devil May Cry and stuff like that. I feel like a series like this could have done well. I'm not sure exactly why it missed the popularity both times around.
Yeah.
Um,
I actually
you
looked
know,
at the gameplay of the 2010 one. It doesn't look too bad, to be honest with you.
yeah, it's kind of like instead of playing as Dante with a sword, you're like playing as the Hulk beating up these nasty creatures. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, and there's like, there's voiceovers in that game. Like I saw a little bit of gameplay. It's like as Rick's running around, he's like talking about like a certain scenario and the mask's talking back. Like they're actually having like actual conversations with each other.
It's like Venom.
And it's all yeah, and it's like
Yeah,
fully
yeah, Venom.
voiced.
Yeah,
And
is very much like Venom. Yeah.
it's fully voiced, and I thought it was pretty neat. I'm not sure where it missed the mark, obviously because I didn't watch the whole thing, but it seemed like it was good in the trailer. I watched the trailer. The music for the trailer is so metal. Like I advise you both to like watch it.
The
It's
whole game
awesome.
series is metal, like
Yeah,
in the Metalocalypse definition.
yeah.
I'll have to watch the trailer for it. I didn't spend the time to do that. I
I,
didn't think about it.
I might actually have to look into the 2010 one.
It's traps, bro.
Yeah, I know.
He has no neck. It goes from his neck at a 45-degree angle to his shoulders. Huge traps.
And as big as his upper body is, the roundhouse kick is just so strong. Dude,
Yeah.
I was looking into it because I was like, why is this doing so much damage? So like the whole entire punch combo does like essentially 4 damage. Like it's like a 4 or 5 hits.
Yeah, it's like 1-1, 1-1, and then 2.
Yeah,
I
but the
think.
roundhouse kick does 8 points of damage, like
And
twice as much as a punch combo.
enemies are
Wow.
sponges in this game. Like, if you've ever played like Streets of Rage, enemies go down in like one or two of your combos. In this, if you don't like the spin kick is like a special move, right?
Yeah.
Like if you don't know how to do it, you're gonna be there all day just punching
Yeah.
face.
Especially like the red variants of the enemies. Like especially those ones. Like getting hit by one of those like does like over half your health bar. Have you guys know what I'm talking about? Like the red variants of the enemies?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, when they all turn red
Especially
at
the
the end.
red variants of the big fat ones that bite.
Yeah. Yeah, like I remember he chomped me and like literally like over half my health it was like disappeared. I was like, are you kidding me?
Oh my God,
And
can
then
we talk about the enemies for a second?
yeah,
Only
sure.
after we talk about how many goat heads are hanging in this man's house.
The
He's
That's
guy
true.
loves
caused
goats.
goat genocide.
He was a professional goat hunter.
I actually think it's a little bit more benign than that. I think he's a like the world's leading goat cheese manufacturer, and he just has a sentimental attachment to all of his goats. That when they die, he hangs their head on the wall because he wants to keep them. I think he has names for all of them,
Yeah.
and that's how he got all his money, and that's how he had this mansion.
Yeah, that's why he has this mansion.
Soul maker of goat cheese.
I think he's like a psychologist in the
It's called
story.
Rick's Goat Cheese in your local supermarket.
So like enemies here, okay? They do not throw a lot at you in terms of enemy variety.
No.
They look different, but they all function like this: walk around slowly, try to dodge you, and then throw out jabs faster than Muhammad Ali. Like that is what they do, and like some of them have the reach, right? Like the like some of them will jab you from all the way across the room, like those little hunkered down guys that like have like the claws up, right? Like they're they're just like hiding their full arm length. When they go to jab you, you're like, geez,
Jesus. Cheese and rice, dude.
dude, he's in another zip code. How is he hitting me from over there?
Yeah, another enemy that I found pretty annoying is like I think it's like the chicken one, the one that kind of looks like a chicken that like guy will dash into you. Um, so you can
Oh,
move, up and down to like avoid enemy hits, but
worst enemy
like
in the game. Worst enemy in
those
the game.
those slide into you like diagonally. So it's like it's actually like hard to like dodge them sometimes because they move so fast when they do that.
Do you know how to dodge everything in this game? You're
By
invulnerable.
punching.
You're invulnerable during spin kick.
Yeah, this words cannot describe how broken the spin kick really is. Or I don't know if it's the spin kick's
Spin to
fault.
win, dude. Spin to win.
Yeah,
He died for our spins.
but it's like you need the spin kick. If you can't spin kick, you will not beat this game. Because
Yeah,
when you Hulk out, your spin kick becomes like a full screen clear that deals even more damage than the base spin kick. And this spin kick is not what you would expect.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
picture
not the It's not the Tatsuma Senpoi kick.
it's Jason Voorhees doing a spinning bird kick. That's what's going on here.
He's a ballerina.
It's the most ridiculous. It would make Chuck Norris blush.
yeah.
This roundhouse kick.
I
Roundhouse
mean,
kick Peyton back.
it's
to
like
back
how
to
are you supposed to like beat like these like bosses in the time that you have without the spin kick?
You're supposed to
can't.
transform.
Well, that's another thing. Like I had a gripe with the transform mechanic. It's like a lot of the time it's like you have like a surplus of energy, so it's like you don't know when the best time to use it because it's like when you clear a room, it doesn't matter how much you had left, it disappears after that.
I
So
can
it's
answer
like
that.
what's that?
Transform in every room and breadstick everything to death.
You kind of have to because if you're gonna
That's it.
sit there and like you like save every little ounce you have, you're gonna waste a lot of it if you
Oh
try
man,
to.
one orb is enough for every room.
Yeah,
That's it.
Yeah,
that
I found that out pretty quick.
muscle explosion attack or whatever, breadsticks, whatever you want to call it, that attack just hits the entire room, and it does more damage than spin kick even.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we're calling this move breadsticks because the manual says Rick transformed Rick shows all these monsters how much guts he actually has. And he does this weird animation where, like, I don't even know. It looks like basically there's baseballs under his skin and they all kind of pull outward, about 4 feet radius and then back in. So it doesn't even look like a big hitbox. But and when it pulls out, there's like veins and stuff in it, like red. So yeah, they look like marinara dunked breadsticks, right, coming out of his body. And they hit everything on the screen, even though they don't really seem to go much further than his actual arms do, and it is devastating. Like this is
Even
the
the
most.
monsters are grossed out. They don't
Yeah.
even need to get hit by it. They just see it and they're like, "Oh, I'm done."
Can you imagine being one of those monsters and taking one of his nipples to the face? Like you're just. It's
Yeah,
it's the weirdest thing. It's some beat 'em ups have like the screen clear specials. This is like infinite of that, as long as you can go like back, forward, back, hit the button quickly enough. Like when you
Yeah.
master that, that's just every room.
Yeah, because I know with like some beat 'em ups, if like you do like the special like roundhouse kick, it like takes some of your health away. I noticed in this game, you just have free reign of it.
It's like the only thing you should be doing is
I
roundhouse kick.
know you just like ballerina like the whole mansion.
yeah. Well, I like picking on the backgrounds of in the game because, like, look at, for example, if you looked at any of the library areas, he has so many books. He is
There's no
extremely
way to
well
read that
read.
thing.
He
Yeah,
is
he's well
extremely
read,
well read.
goat cheese making psychiatrist.
I gotta get in that library. The secret of the goat cheese.
Man's gonna have a hobby.
It's goat killing. Look at
Who
him.
also fights demons on the side. This is his third go around. It's the same character in every game, by the way.
He's a professional.
Even the even the PlayStation game, but I think the PlayStation game is considered to be a reboot. So we'll give that one a pass.
Yeah, well, rebooted for what? I don't. They didn't make another one, did they?
It's too bad.
I mean, he has to compete with all kinds of dark games like Devil May Cry and like Resident Evil.
Resident
And
Evil 4 was big. I mean, that was what, 2008. So I
I'm
mean, it was like
serious
2
though.
years
Go
after
look at
that.
some footage of this game and think of games like Devil May Cry and Dante's Inferno and geez, I'm trying to think of the other really big hack and slash, God of War, stuff like that. Like, and I think this game would have fit, and I think its character is unique enough. I just am not sure why it just didn't land. I didn't play it, so maybe that's
Yeah,
why.
that's
But
probably
if it's
the reason is in there.
yeah,
probably.
I would have to say it's probably something with the gameplay or something. I'm not sure. Like if
I
the
mean,
game was solid all around, like I just can't see why it wouldn't have done good.
yeah, I
It,
mean, Devil May Cry's story is not great. Like, it doesn't have a good story.
I'm
Like,
actually not the biggest fan of like Devil May Cry. I mean,
Me either.
I've played a few of them, but I'm like more of a fan of like if you've ever heard Dante's Inferno,
yeah,
that's a good beat 'em up game.
And as
Hack and
much as
slash.
everybody likes to crap on the Castlevania reboot series, the Lords of Shadow, the first one was a lot of fun. The second one was annoying as hell. But
Yeah, we played it together actually.
the first one was so much fun. So, it had a lot of competition in the time.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, because I like the concept of Splatterhouse. I've never heard of it, and just playing Splatterhouse 3. I actually went back to play Splatterhouse 2. I didn't beat it, but I've noticed Splatterhouse 2 is a little different. Like it's not like you can't go up and down. It's more like stage based, where you can kind of like a side scroller.
yeah, it's like completely side
Uh,
scroller
I
in
like
this they
that
tried
one
out
more.
beat 'em up format. I feel like this game misses the mark on the beat 'em up genre because it gives you that weird map you don't need in conjunction with the timer. I think the map would have been cool if you didn't have the timer and maybe you had to go find a key or
Yeah,
something,
you definitely need the
whatever.
map with the time, because it's like this game would have been frustrating as all hell
Um,
without the map.
and I think without the timer, it actually would have been pretty good. Like if they had put stuff on the map for you to find, that would have helped you. I think this would have been a really different story, and I think this would have been a really amazing game as a result.
So this
But
might be a
it's
hot take, but
yep.
I don't really like timers in my games. Like, I
No,
understand,
that's
like,
not a hot take. I'm there with you.
No, I'm kind of in the same boat.
but
I
like,
mean,
it's
I'm more
just
okay with it now that I'm older and I can play a game fast, but
yeah. But thematically, it makes sense. But for the
Well, it's a
most
sense of
part,
impending doom. I think they were trying to go for.
they just didn't pick a lane with this game. They just like did, everything. They threw everything at it, and it just most of the stuff that they picked just doesn't work well together. Like,
Yeah,
what if you were playing Zelda on a timer? Like, it just doesn't.
Majora's Mask.
You wouldn't, right? And that's basically what this is.
yeah, it's a little different though. Like, as you can rewind time, right?
Yeah,
And enjoy. Yeah,
I was just having
yeah,
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
the,
Timers blow.
but
Like,
the biggest problem with it in this game is that the enemies are such damage sponges. Like in like level 5, you if you didn't have the spin kick or you didn't know it existed or you didn't have the energy to transform, you could literally be in a room for like a minute and a half or 2 minutes fighting
yeah,
like
and that
6 enemies.
and that's devastating in this game. You do not
It's
want to be in a room for a minute.
it's just not great design.
So I know the enemies turn red later, but I didn't really notice a major health difference in them. I felt like the enemies that were taking 2 hits still took 2 hits.
Dude, those
And
dog
Well,
enemies?
I
oh yeah, well there's
well,
there's the dog. There actually aren't
biggest thing
aren't
I've
that many
noticed is
enemies.
like how much damage they do to you, because it's like it's very significant.
Yeah. The damage definitely changes, but you know what really doesn't though are those like fat enemies with the jaws that like bite. Um
They
they
have a
take
lot of
half your
health.
health. Well,
Yeah.
they take half your health at the beginning of the game too.
Do they really?
Yeah,
I just
like
noticed that the
very
red
first time
ones.
I saw one of these things, it took half my health with one hit, and I was like, oh my god, this kind of game.
The Souls game before Souls was invented.
It does give you unlimited continues at least, which is kind of nice. It doesn't send you back to the beginning. I will give it that. I think a good example would be like I think the original Castlevania for NES would be like nearly unplayable if they sent you back to the beginning every time you died. But the unlimited continues helps a lot for modern
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, especially on like, if it was a no, I mean, I guess even if it was on arcade, like being able to continue where you are is important, but especially on home releases, like the convenience in your home, it's just games that push you right to the end like immediately without any kind of continue system or anything like that. They just don't value your time, and it's frustrating now. We're just so used to save points and the quality of life in you know games autosave features and all that stuff. We're spoiled now, but we appreciate the respect for our time.
Yeah, I know I do. I mean, I
Just
just
get just get good, get
yeah,
good. Don't
I
die.
just I don't know. It's just like, being a father, it's like even just like losing, 15 minutes of progress. It's like it's a little demoralizing. I don't know why. Like you said, it's probably because we're like spoiled now. But
I'm
back
I'm
in the
okay
day,
with it.
you just like as a kid, you didn't care for that. Like if you lost 15 minutes of progress, it was like whatever. But nowadays, it's like, oh, I don't want to do that again.
Yeah, you lose all of your continues in the um, whatever Metropolis zone in Sonic 2, and you have to start over from scratch. You just go, all right, well, back to Green Hill Zone.
I don't think I ever in my life have lost all my continues in a Sonic game.
Ever in your life,
Never.
stop.
Never. He's that
Stop.
good.
You did
He's the
not
Sonic
beat
master.
Sonic 1 the first time. Labyrinth Zone kicked your ass, and you know it.
Probably I blocked that memory out. Labyrinth
Yeah, well,
Zone's a
that doesn't
horror
mean
show.
it didn't happen. Get back
Labyrinth
to
Zone. That
reality, buddy.
is that the water one? The
Yeah.
water stage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you already
I,
know.
I don't know about you guys, but like anything with like water as a kid, like like being inside like the water and knowing that you could drown in it, that scared me as a kid.
I also have a very logical explanation why everybody hates water levels.
What is it?
Because they change the rules.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Never like it. Fortunately, Splatterhouse 3 does not have a water level. You don't have to worry about it. There's no swimming in this game. The gameplay in this is very, very samey, and I think it's because of spin kicks and breadsticks. That's a good food truck name. I think
Spin kicks and breadsticks.
spin kicks and breadsticks. You know, and it doesn't matter what you're fighting, because the enemies just go down to those two moves really quickly. Even bosses, right? Like it's just it's what you end up doing to win, kind of out
Except
of
for the
necessity.
dark one.
Even he does. That's how I beat him. How did you guys beat him?
Well, I never actually got like the good ending, so yeah, it was a lot of frustration. But like, well, most bosses that I fought, I was just literally trying to like chase them down and trying to do the all boxing combo on them.
I just breadsticked him to death,
The all
baby.
1-2.
Then he blocks
Uh,
that attack. I
I
had
did.
to try and grab him.
He does block except for when he's attacking. So I found this window where like after he shoots at you one time, you have enough time to pull off breadsticks in the middle of the second shot, and he can't block in the middle of the shot. So I end up hitting him, and his shots do like no damage, and it only takes I think it was like 3 or 4 actual hits to bring down
I
his
feel like
second form.
the projectiles in this game, for whatever reason, like did like next to no damage.
Yeah, there are
Yeah.
rooms where you're just getting bombarded with projectiles, and the strat is walk through it and just take the
Uh,
damage, and it doesn't. It's
Yeah,
not even really
because if you
at
jump, they
first,
knock you
consequential.
over.
yeah, at
Yeah,
first I was like actually trying to like dodge them and stuff, and but then I saw like how much damage it actually was doing, and I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna like tank this whole room.
it's just sadly pretty kind of broken, actually. You know, I don't know the story behind the development of this game if it was rushed out, but there's just so many things about this game that just don't really work. I don't know if we want to get into how we feel about this game, but I'm just going to throw out there when we started playing this game and I got like halfway through it, I thought to myself, oh, I'm going to play this multiple times and see all the endings and maybe achievement hunt it a little bit. And I beat it and I did not go back to it. I can't say I really enjoyed my time with this game, honestly. I don't know how you guys feel about it.
I was
I'm,
frustrated the whole time.
I'm the same way. Like the bosses mainly was what did it for me, and then how slow like Rick. To me, it felt like how slow Rick actually got off the ground when he got knocked down because of the timer. I felt like he was like a grandma trying to get up.
Yeah.
And then when you lose a life, he like takes a little nap for
Oh,
like 5
Yeah.
seconds.
oh, God, it takes forever when you die. Like, oh my God, you die and 30 seconds are gone. You're just get up.
Yeah,
Your watching kid is in danger. Get up, dude.
And again, also very uncharacteristic of beat 'em up games. I just don't understand what the thinking was, but like they didn't even play another beat 'em up game before making this one.
They might not have.
Oh,
I mean, I wouldn't consider like the second one a beat 'em up, right? That's like a side scroller.
the second one is a side-scrolling like brawler, basically.
Yeah.
kind of like Altered Beast.
Yeah,
Yeah. Would you consider that like different from like a traditional beat 'em up?
yeah. That
Oh,
like 3D plane kind of makes it feel a
yeah.
lot different.
So they kind of like experimented with this game, and
Don't
I
worry,
don't.
whether we get an audience or not, we will play more beat 'em ups
Oh yeah,
before this is our little experiment here is over. We'll get you
Well,
some
yeah.
familiarity. There are way
I
better ones than this.
I like Splatterhouse 2 more. I didn't beat it. I beat Splatterhouse 3 twice to prepare for this episode. I haven't beaten Splatterhouse 2 yet, but I was having fun with it. And Splatterhouse 3, I just felt frustrated more than anything because things taking like half your life and, the how long the stages are when you die on a boss all of your lives and you're sent back to the beginning of the level, it it feels a lot more punishing and not respectful of your time. And in Splatterhouse 2, the levels aren't nearly as long and everything is a pattern. So it feels like you're rewarded for learning the level.
Yeah,
Whereas in this
memorizing. Yeah.
game, if you accidentally grab something that you don't want to and there's another enemy on screen that's going to take half your health, he's going to know, he's going to hit you, and you're going to be pretty annoyed.
Yeah, most beat 'em ups have iframes during throw animations that you can use to your advantage to like crowd control, but this one you're just punished for it.
Yeah, grabbing
Yeah.
bosses is great. Grabbing regular enemies when there's more on screen is not a good time.
Yeah, you gotta throw them as soon as you have them, pretty much. And
Chicken says,
even then, you'll still get hit.
yeah, maybe it's a point against it, maybe it's not. But again, perpetuates the necessity to use the spin kick.
Right. It's just so good.
Yeah, it's way too good. This is a
Yeah.
really this
If
is a
this was,
masterclass in imbalance right
yeah,
here.
if if this was the game, developed later in time and patch notes and stuff, games could be like patched. That's probably something that would have got nerfed hardcore.
Well, they'd also need to nerf the health on the enemies because I feel like
Yeah.
Actually, I do want to say something about the spin kick and everything. Apparently, in the Japanese version of the game, your punch does more than the spin kick.
Really.
That it's actually like makes more sense. The spin kick is a crowd control move, not a damaging move.
Right. It's like AoE, so it should do less damage, but like if you hit more enemies with it, it would do more damage overall
Right.
than your combo. But if you're both hitting a single target, the punch should do more.
And I think there's another difference in the Japanese version, and it's a little bit easier in general. Not a lot, but I think it was a little bit easier. And like I said, the punch combo does more damage, and they nerfed the spin kick a little bit. So
Interesting.
it's a little bit more balanced in that way.
Okay, I've noticed games do that. Like when they like port them over to like different countries, like they'll tweak like different things. I wonder why they do that.
I think it's a mistake.
Maybe.
It could be. I
I
mean,
feel
it's
like it had to be.
probably easy to change values on damage on accident. I don't know. I don't code, but
We're just here to appreciate games, not make them, guys,
Right.
yeah.
and complain when they're wrong, like this one.
Yeah, I wish I
I
had more
mean,
fun with this.
for what it is, like I appreciate like what they tried to do. I mean, it's like for a beat 'em up, it's different. You actually it's kind of like a, not like a world map, but you got a map that you can go and visit different rooms if you wanted to. But again, like the timer kind of defeats the purpose of that. I would have loved to see this game without the timer and an incentive to like actually explore like the whole like mansion, like each floor of the mansion.
If you thought that Rick's house was a mess, let me tell you about the structure of this game. That's the real splatter here. That's the real Splatterhouse. Just like the structure that they put together makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's a terrible mess. I
I,
mean, it has,
I
yeah.
I think they had like a good foundation. I just think the execution of it was not good.
I think it's a visual spectacle. I think if you wanted to shock your friends with, bloody, gory 16-bit graphics, I think you'd plug this thing in for, maybe 10, 20 minutes, have a good laugh with your friends. There's no co-op, so you're not going to do that. And I think that's kind of where it ends for Splatterhouse 3 for me. I don't know, Dan, did you like it?
Like I was saying, like I like some aspects of the game. Like the map, I thought was a unique idea, but the time I did not like for various reasons. The timers just kind of ruin. Like you can't like really dissect the game like when you're on a timer. Like I feel like for me, like when I play a game, I like to usually explore everything and I like collect everything. And I know that that's not like this type of game, but it's like, you got all these extra rooms. It's like I kind of want to see, what each room has to offer. Like maybe there could be like a special weapon in there or something. But yeah, it's all for show basically because it's like the map shows you like there's an X, that's where you're supposed to go, and that's it too. It's like the other rooms don't matter, and I feel like that was a huge detriment to the game. But
Yeah, I didn't explore like at all.
no, there's no incentive to.
Not at
And
all. There's a disincentive to.
yeah, exactly.
Another
And
poor design choice.
right.
Yeah, it's
But
just riddled with them.
I feel like if they like fixed a couple things, the game could actually been like really good. But in its current state and how they released it, I can't really recommend it. I mean, like Don was saying, like it's good for like 20 minutes for a laugh here or there, but other than that, I don't know. It just wasn't too good. And the story is kind of bare bones, to be honest. Kind of comical if you like read it. Like today. I mean, it might have been scary back in the day, but if you read it now, it's just kind of funny.
I can just imagine like 16-year-olds playing this game going, "Oh, it's so sweet. Look at all the guts and the monsters and everything." And
Back in the day, that's how it was. When this is all you had, like people thought this stuff, like, as crazy as it sounds, because we're so used to how real games have been, like, with graphics lately. But like back in the day, like, they thought this stuff was realistic,
Well,
especially as a kid.
the original Castlevania game is touted as a horror game, right? And there's like bodies hanging in the background and stuff like that if you pay attention. And the 8-bit graphics don't land today, but back in the day, I feel like that was like, oh, look at this,
Yeah,
serious.
it's kind of hard to explain, like, a kid that's not from our era, like how games were. Like, they probably look at these games and like, this isn't scary at all. But it's like when this was all you grew up with, and this all it was. It was scary. I remember like Resident Evil 1 on the PS1. I remember as a kid, like a 7, 8-year-old kid, that game was terrifying to me.
you know what's scary about that game is like if you're not conservative with your ammo, you run out and like you are literally helpless. In a game like this, in Splatterhouse 3, you don't feel helpless ever.
He's got guns 24/7, boys.
He's bringing the gun show to you.
So what do you think, Steve? Overall, what do you think of Splatterhouse 3?
So like visually it was pretty exciting for the time. I think like if I had played it as a kid, I would have appreciated it more, but as an adult and like with my experience in playing games for 30 plus years, like it just misses a lot of the marks that I look for a great game, and I didn't really have a lot of fun with it. Um, I had more fun making fun of it, honestly, and that kind of like sums everything up. Like it's one of those games that you love to hate.
It's
Yeah.
the mountain you climb because it's there, even if the mountain is made of shit.
It's very messy.
There it is.
Yeah.
Any more final thoughts on Splatterhouse, boys?
I don't think so.
I think we hit all the marks.
Uh, I don't really have anything else to say either. I think what needs to be said has been said.
You might say we don't want to beat it to death.
I don't have a
Right.
drum in here. Good enough. So I guess this is the part of the show where we put Splatterhouse 3 aside, finally. And we're going into wrapping up our show. So, for any first-time listeners, or I guess you'd all be first-time listeners if this is the first one we air, we have a giant list of retro games, and it's our compilation of tons of games. And we would love for anybody that wants to join us as a community to add to the list. But considering we're the Cable Club and a lot of our themes are, kind of Pokemon based, we decided to name this list our Retro Decks because it's our encyclopedia of retro games. And the next episode that we're going to be doing is called a Wonder Trade, and anybody that has ever done a Wonder Trade will know exactly what it is when we say that we'll be randomizing the list. So, it ain't just all
Alrighty.
Rattatas. So
Hopefully not.
no.
There might be a few on there.
Would you consider Splatterhouse 3 a Rattata?
Yeah.
Does it count as Joey's Rattata?
It could even be a Weedle or something worse.
All right, well, setting Splatterhouse 3 aside and randomizing now.
Let's see.
You guys are
Oh.
gonna be so mad.
Oh no. I don't know if I want to hear it.
We're playing a PlayStation 2 game from 2003.
Wow.
They changed
Right
up.
up there.
Yep, they changed up some of the traditional aspects of this series.
I know what it is.
It is a platforming game
No.
by
Okay.
Capcom.
No, it's
Okay.
not a
Oh my God.
platforming game.
Don't
Stop.
even.
For the next
I
2
think
weeks,
I know what it is.
we are playing Mega Man X7.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Remember when I said that I wanted to play the Mega Man Legacy Collection 2 and the thing that was keeping me from doing it was playing X7?
Well, now you got a reason.
Now you got a reason.
Oh my god.
That's funny.
Alright. I almost want to re-roll it. Keep it honest. Alright, Mega Man X7 it is.
We're at the mercy of the Wonder Trade. Sometimes you get Rattatas.
So
Yep,
the Wonder Trade episodes are going to be one structured a little bit differently. We kind of covered this a little bit at the beginning of the show, but because one of us picked Splatterhouse, we just kind of riffed on it. But the Wonder Trade episodes, we're actually going to review the game. We're going to give you some thoughts and let you know whether or not it's worth your time. Spoiler, I don't think it is, but we'll see what everybody thinks when we come through, and we'll have categories that we'll talk about specifically with the game and rate them.
Fair enough.
So, anybody
Dan,
that's
take us
listening,
to the outro.
well, anybody that's listening, please play along with us because we want to hear what you guys think too. Very important to us. We want to know, anybody that wants to be part of the community, your opinions are valid just like ours.
If you hate this
Absolutely.
game like us, great. If you like this game,
Tell us why we're wrong. I actually haven't played X7 before.
Well, you're in for a treat.
Can I just play as Axel the whole time because he's like bass?
The voice
Oh, is
acting
it
in
that
that
bad?
game is so bad, dude.
Mega Man!
I'm dying.
All right.
All right, cue the outro.
Take us to the outro, Dan. Take it home.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. This is our first published episode. But if you like what you have heard and want to hear more rougher content, you can head over to our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/@thecableclub, or email us in your thoughts on Mega Man 7 at thecableclubpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll read your comments on the air.
Mega Man
Alrighty, so-
X7, Dan.
Yeah, Mega Man X7.
Don't get it mixed up. Mega Man 7 is a much better game than this one.
Yes.
And of course, if you want to hear more coming up from us, please subscribe. And if you are so inclined, leave a review if you care to. I don't know how reviews exactly help the show, but I do know that even just the feedback at this point in our journey will help us improve the show. So thank you very much for listening. And we will see you in 2 weeks. Game over.
Die, monster. You don't belong in this world.